next couple of weeks, I'm on my travels southwest of England. Oh, I love the southwest of England. So I thought actually I'll do a couple of local photo walks before we do that. And I've come to, I suppose, the western part of town, which makes my town sound very large, but it's not. Out to a beautiful village called Bagnor, and Bagnor is very important for. Well, it sort of has a lot of things here that are important to our family. Number one, it's the Christmas tree farm. Number two, it's the site of a theatre called the Watermill Theatre, which we love. We adore the Watermill Theatre. It's a theatre and a watermill. Who knew? And number three, it's got a pub here called the Blackbird, which is the pub my wife Sam. That was the first place she worked in. And also, we came back here just before lockdown. We came here and we had a meal in the Blackbird. Now is this really nice gastro pub, gorgeous food. It's probably sort of the closest you can get to Michelin in a gastro pub. And sitting next to us was a very, very famous composer, theatre composer. I won't say his name. And he was with his wife and I think another couple. And I went across. I'd had a little bit too much of the falling down juice, and Sam said, "Don't you dare." She knew what I was going to do, and I went across, slurred across to him, and said, "Is there any chance I could have a selfie with you? I've never had a selfie in my life, and you're my first." And you could tell the horror in his eyes, and he begrudgingly agreed. And we got this picture, which I've still got. I'll tell you what, when we next meet up for a Garibaldi, and it's just you and I'll show you the picture, and then you'll realise how famous this chap is. And we did this picture, and I looked at it. I looked at the selfie afterwards, and I thought he looked flaming miserable. But instead of me just thinking, well, at least I got the picture, I went back to his table and said, I'm ever so sorry. Is there a chance we could do that again? Because you didn't look very happy, which made him even less happy. And quelle surprise, he refused. But I've still got that picture. It's the most miserable selfie you could ever have of somebody. So here we are, Bagnor. I'll get some lovely photos here. Welcome to
Photography Daily, the Friday Photo Walk.
It's the show of the week where we escape together like the end scene from The Graduate, with one less yellow bus to run to. Clearly, we don't need that though, because the photo walk is a metaphorical wind down from the week. Just you, just me, our cameras, the world in front of us, a chance to walk and make pictures of everything and nothing, all at the same time. Of course, I'll be hauling the mailbag behind me, but as long as that doesn't wind you up, we're good to go. Remember, this is a photographic show where your stories of what you're doing and what you've been photographing glue the time that we have together. That's what we want to hear about. Today, from some of the letters, the mails and DMs, we talk reunions and coming together. After this, for some photographic peeps, barren 14 months period. We talk abandoned places and places you need to go with a Geiger counter. There's talk of a meet-up and a pub you won't believe the name of. We talk travel, take some hail in the face, and you have the kind of cute end that will make this show worth listening to for that alone. You're going to have a podcast listening equivalent of seeing a fur ball on social media, and it's going to make your heart melt. Well, it did mine, and other stories. Before we start, you know who I'm going to thank, our wonderful, wonderful patrons, for whom, without them, or you, if you're one, this show just wouldn't be here. It's your belief that will help grow this show and really grow the community that I hope is starting to build. Plus, of course, we're also supported by the wonderful people at mpb.com, the number one platform when it comes to trust for buying, selling and trading used camera gear, with offices and warehouses now in Brighton, UK, Brooklyn, USA and Berlin in Europe. Quality used gear is a way of driving the circular economy, and of course, this makes it a sustainable way to shop too. And this is the kind of thing I like, because some companies treat plastic and unnecessary packaging as if it's just normal, not MPB. I bought a series of things of late, and they come with a note which say each year MPB saves 1,200 football pitches worth of plastic bubble wrap by using recycled packaging. It's a small change that adds up to a big difference. Just another reason why I believe in driving the circular economy by buying used from mpb.com. It's something I do myself, and you can if you're in the States, Europe or the UK. Right then, boots on. Shades today actually for parts of it. Lens caps off. Let's walk.
I've just crossed a wonderful little brook. I did get some pictures for you. It's when the theatre's open, the Watermill Theatre, it's the site of the famous duck race. We Brits, we go one side. It's a bit like poo sticks. I don't know what poo sticks is, Neil. Ah, right. Have you never read A.A. Milne? Let me explain. Duck races. You get some. You know what a duck race is, surely. Plastic ducks, small little fairground plastic ducks, and you release them one side of a bridge. Hang on a minute, this is looking decidedly muddy. Hold on. Am I going to get through this? Yeah. Ooh. Ah. You release them. Oh dear, wet foot now. You release them one side of the bridge, and they go under a sort of tunnel. They come out the other end, and there's usually about 100. Whoever comes out first is obviously the winner, and you go and choose a entirely rubbish prize for your efforts. But it's not the prize that matters. In that particular case, I know that in Britain we have this, it's not the winning that matters, it's the taking part. But I tell you what, in the plastic duck race, it's just the winning. It's not the prize, it's just the winning. Anyway, where were we? Let's start with a few DMs, shall we? Through Messenger from members of the Facebook group, starting with Catherine Cunningham, San Diego way. She writes, just sharing my moment of meeting up with my son. Oh, it was a beautiful photograph that she shared. My daughter-in-law and my precious youngest grandson. The end of 14 months of no hugs and just waves across a large garden. A few times as we drove the 2 hours to their home to spend 20 minutes or so to witness that they were doing okay. I hugged my adult child and I cried a lot, a flood of relief. It was I was being able to lay my hand upon my child that broke the barrier of emotion that I'd unknowingly built up inside. I had no idea it went so deeply or would feel so raw. The C word taught me to hug harder, pause longer, and to breathe in the moments of being in their presence. That is, thank you, Catherine, for sharing that. That's just wonderful. And I'm seeing some pictures like this emerge. And Catherine Cunningham is in our Facebook group. So I'm not sure. Did you share it there, Catherine? I'm not sure you did, but maybe if you're a friend of Catherine's, she'll show you that particular picture. But it was out of a conversation by direct message that the idea moved on to the suggestion of something called the reunion, where photographers could capture exactly these moments. Of course, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure that some people might find that too contrived, or some may even suggest cynical for us as photographers to suggest such a product. Maybe it's more a project actually than a product. But this is, I suppose, it's no different to photographing something significant, a significant event like a wedding. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about this on the show, and a great length actually on one of the private Patreon posts, where I talked about the whole process of how I went about it. You know, photographing the end of life, photographing a funeral. It's an event, but these are joyous events, aren't they? The meeting up and hugging and being with people and all that tension released from the last, as Catherine says, 14 months. It's hard to believe, isn't it? 14 months. Sometimes it seems, Catherine, like it was only yesterday that our Prime Minister was saying, stay at home. And then here we are, just, over a year later. But thank you, Catherine. That photograph you sent was wonderful to see. And maybe, the reunion. I mean, there were plenty of lockdown projects, weren't there? Why not? The reunion, much happier than photographing people through panes of glass, not being able to have anything to do with them. The reunion would be a lovely idea. DM here from Martin Ellard in Swansea. Just listening to the latest Photowalk. It's always my peace and meditation on the way to shoot. I've been listening on the way and also way back from shooting rooms and food at one of my favourite local venues. Hopefully, I'll be back at an actual wedding from them very soon. I hope so, Martin. Keep the faith. I'm sure we will. With regard to people who photograph abandoned places, yes, we mentioned this last week, and I said I'd love to go and do it, but I'd probably need somebody to properly hold my hand. A friend of mine, Graham Harries, takes amazing shots of old bunkers that he finds in the middle of nowhere in Wales. He's done the Chernobyl thing a few times and is a genuinely lovely bloke. He's worth a look, probably a chat too. Well, I went straight there, actually, Martin, and I navigated straight over to his Chernobyl stuff and had a good old scoot through that particular portfolio. And I am fascinated by Chernobyl. I've talked to my old mucker Kev Mullins about this, and he gave me that look of, "Are you mad? Who wants to go there? You're only allowed in for so long, aren't you? You have to carry a Geiger counter around with you. It's one of those, you know. Is it a necessary thing to do?" Was the look I got through that one eyebrow lift that he does so well. Probably not, but it does fascinate me. But I was looking at Graham's stuff, the unnerving shots of the abandoned police station in Pripyat? Pripyat. Oh, I always get the pronunciation of this place wrong. But you know what I mean. In the heart of that area. But there's this abandoned police station below ground with the jail doors open. But the jail doors all look fully operational by the looks of it. And see, that's where my imagination would wind over time. I'd be thinking, well, look, what if I go in and there's a freak gust of wind underground from nowhere, I appreciate, that shuts the door, bang, and I can't get out. I mean, that is the stuff of horror films, isn't it? We've talked about this before, but I went to Bodmin Jail. I took Sam there for one of our first dates, Bodmin Jail of all places, to get some cracking black and white photographs for a project, a college project that I was doing, that I had to do for my certificate. And they have in the desert. They've closed it off now. I just don't think that health and safety that they'd let you go into this now, because there were falling rocks from the building above. It's a proper ramshackle place. Last I heard, they were going to turn it into a fancy hotel, and I even think a wedding venue. But in this jail, this debtor's jail, you could go into the small prisons, but it was really spooky. And I'm telling you, there was a proper chill as you went. It's probably my imagination, as I say, playing overtime. But as you go into each of these small cells, you almost could feel these eyes from centuries ago burning into the back of you. Oh. But I'll leave a link for Graham's work that he did at Chernobyl, and I will reach out to him. Perhaps if we don't do an interview, at least maybe I could go on an abandoned building walk with him. But a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to Arthur Bondar, who now this doesn't sound like a very, if you like to use the old expression, Eastern Bloc name. But he hails from Ukraine. He now lives in Moscow, but he hails from Ukraine, and he told some stories in an interview that I had with him. We were talking about something entirely different. We were talking about some pictures, some collections that he's buying from World War II of soldiers that have made pictures. So they're not war photographers, they're soldiers, and he's buying up these incredible collections. And some war photographers as well from that period. But he was telling me about his own trips to Chernobyl and growing up in the shadow of that place, and the stories that he was told by his parents there was nobody really knew what was going on, so there was this kind of, the frighteners were put on him in many ways. I haven't played this yet. And the line to Moscow wasn't particularly good, so I've got to figure out what we're going to do with that interview. But there are some parts, and you can hear him talking about Chernobyl. I think it's fascinating to listen to somebody that's been and investigated that area, particularly because he grew up in the shadow of it. Arthur Bondar.
Slowly, I realized that it's a place. It can sound a little bit weird, but it's a place where I felt myself cozy and very calm.
Cozy and calm, right?
Yeah. And so I decided to come back there, and I have been coming back there for 8 years in different ways, like a fixer, like a photographer for some medias. And it appears that the zone actually it's transforming all the time, every year by year. So I was really interested to look at this and to eyewitness how it's changing.
Well, I know I read that you say that your parents frightened you with stories of Chernobyl in your youth, didn't they?
Actually, every Soviet child, I can say, was
Really?
frightened by the story of Chernobyl. Yeah, because we were prohibited to walk during the rain, because we'll lost all our hair.
You weren't permitted to play outside in the rain in case
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because radiation. Radiation. It was in the air, and our parents knew almost nothing about radiation at the Soviet time, because we have just a few drops of information about the radiation itself.
The fascinating Arthur Bondar, and I will actually post that interview at some stage, but as I say, the line wasn't great from Moscow, which was such a shame, and it didn't seem to get any better on the second attempt of trying either. But he has some wonderful stories, and actually it was a tip-off really about him that led me to his story, because he's been collecting, as I say, these pictures made during World War II, not by famous war photographers or anything like that. Although one of them is a war photographer. Many by just those that happen to have a camera. There's is it Sam Jaffa? I think it's Sam Jaffa, who's an American GI that took pictures on his Leica and got some fantastic images of various liberations across Europe. But we'll come back to Arthur another day. Do you remember last week I asked you to stop and make a picture right there and then, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, expecting, of course, to see mostly Photowalk pictures, but actually, I was surprised by how many of you work and listen. In other words, you're sat down at a desk and listening, which is fine. You don't have to be walking around. But I kind of have this romantic sort of ideal in my head that the Photowalk is always listened to by those that are traipsing through the countryside. But we're going to do that now. It was the first thing that you see feature, which is for want of a much better title. So get your camera out. I'm going to pop you in my pocket, and I'm going to look straight ahead of me, and there's a sort of real it's a copse. Is it a copse? It's all these very tangled trees that are together. What am I on? ISO 200, and I'm on 250th. Aeroplane above me, so I can't even edit this bit. That's a sort of, you can always tell when when there's an aircraft above me. I sort of go into panic mode because I know that I can't edit it because it will sound weird. I can't make any mistakes. Right, I've taken a picture. First thing that I saw. So do that now. So get your camera out. Let me rescue you from the pocket. So whatever you use, whether it's I don't know, it can be an iPhone, smartphone, your camera, your DSLR, your mirrorless. I think I even suggested last week it can be a GoPro. All right, now this is the moment. Deep breath in. It's like a meditative moment, this. Point your camera. First thing that you see, click. Don't think too much about it. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. And there we go. First thing that you see, and send that to me. Email it. 2,000 pixels, please, if your contraption manages a photograph that wide. 2,000 pixels, and send it to the email address, which is studio@photographydaily.show. Studio@photographydaily.show. Today there being sunshine. There's lots of contrast. Love these yellow buttercups ahead of me on the verge, which falls into complete shadow. I'm not sure if I'll do it justice, but I'm popping you in my pocket again for a second. Let's completely underexpose. F16, 250th, ISO 200. Oh, I'm not sure. Sometimes to the eye it just looks so much better, doesn't it? That could be a proper something and nothing. Let me rescue you. Hold on. Steve Vaughan, when we went for the photo walk in Oxford, was it about 3 weeks back now? he was, I think, delighted to see that I do actually place you in the pocket. I have a pocket top left-hand corner in this North Face jacket, which on a day-to-day, which is getting progressively warmer, I'm thinking I'm going to have to start stitching pockets to the top of my T-shirts. Those sort of T-shirts that your mum used to make you wear. Mum, nobody else has a pocket in their T-shirt. Why have I got to have a pocket in my T-shirt? It's useful, darling. Carry your handkerchiefs. No, nobody else does that. Anyway, where are we? Yes, talking about the first thing that you see. There's, let me mention a couple of people that took part in last week's first thing that you can see. Michael Hongcomp was out for a walk. Says, I've been getting back to my daily sunrise walks after a bit of a setback. Not sure I'll meet my 2021 mile goal. Oh, 2021 miles in a year. It's a goal, I'll give you that. But we shall see. He says, I'm at less than 600 miles at the moment. Well, you've got a bit of catch up to do, you're quite right. Out today with only my iPhone. As you got to the point in the episode asking us all to stop and take a picture of our moment, I happen to be walking up the hill towards my younger child's school and thinking of how they're entering into the final week of this very odd school year that we're very happy to put behind us. Now, I took this picture, there we go. So I'll include Michael's picture, another Michael Fox. Bosch, he says, episode 231. Your Friday photo walk when you told us to grab the nearest image-making device and take a picture of what you see, like a loyal dog or some robot android type thing. I immediately obeyed. Well, does that work? All right, let me try this then, Michael Fox. Oh, I could do with a Ferrari. Would you mind just sending one through the post? Yeah, it doesn't really work, does it? Anyway, here's my image. I was working from home at the time at my dining table. And even though my brand new XT3 was sitting on the coffee table about 4 meters away, I grabbed my iPhone and snapped a shot of these oranges going stale in their fruit basket, which I could see in between my two computer monitors. As it was black and white week, it was last week, wasn't it? I've also made this monochrome. My word, you were well behaved. You went with the absolute word of the show, didn't you, that particular week? Appreciate it. I'll put that picture as well on the show page today. Joshua Sidwell, he showed a bad 4x4 parked car at the hospital. We don't have trucks as big as yours, Joshua, but we do have, I might regret saying this, we do have Mercedes drivers. Neil, I have a Mercedes? How dare you? I'm not like that. I'm sure you're not. But generally, have Mercedes, park at any angle I like, across the lines, if I so wish. There are other people that supplied me with their first thing that they see pictures as well. And I'll include those on the show page today. So be sure to follow the show page link, which is on the app. And you can see those that sent those in. And I'm hoping we might be able to build this idea up. Just stop, take a picture wherever you are, whatever device you have at that moment. Right, I got a message from Anna McCarthy. 2 weeks in a row now, Anna. And I like this. Anna was out and about, not sure this was necessarily a photo walk, but it's going to kind of count. And came across a real-life proper English pub called, you'll never guess what, the Garibaldi. True, absolutely true. And in case you are new to this show and thinking, what's all the fuss about? Garibaldi? What's he talking about? Well, Garibaldi biscuits, or dead fly biscuits as some people call them because they have currants in them. Is it raisins or currants? So a lot of people call them dead fly biscuits because that's what it looks like. Just a biscuit with a load of dead flies squashed into it. But that's my favourite biscuit. They are to me what spinach was to Popeye, or perhaps more realistically, what a bowl of chili was to the great American TV detective Columbo. You can see pictures on the show page today. And, oh, look at this. Look. Can you hear this? Hold on. I have to share this brook with you. Hold on. There are times on these photo walks I really would like a long pair of waders. I'd just like to walk along the stream with you. A photo wade. Hang on, before I finish my thought, I've turned pretty much 360. And behind me, this is the great thing about photography. When you're out and you're not necessarily looking to make pictures of anything, because sometimes when you're looking, you don't. We've talked about this before, haven't we? You just don't find what you're looking for. But as I turn 360, looking through the trees, because I'm a big fan of the shoot-through shot, you know, where you shoot past things and through things. I love all that sort of that three-dimension, that sort of animation build-up, if you like. But right at the end, there's a track that I've just walked along, a B road, which in England means the sort of thing that my Kia manages to find on sat-nav instead of the A roads. But at the end of it, where there's still some light on the road, so let me get this picture now, because the clouds sort of cross that sun every minute or so. There's a tree in the field which is now illuminated again. It comes alive when that sun comes out, and then it's sort of dull and there's nothing to it when the sun goes in, so I need to catch it now for you. 250th ISO 200. Oh, the sun's gone in again. It's kind of gone all dull. I'm going to wait for the sun to come out on that. I'm going to pre-focus. So yeah, it's through the trees, and it's like this beautiful, is it a beach? I don't know. On its own in the middle of a field. And it's wonderful the way that it's being framed by the foliage and the trees that are all around me here. You'll understand it when you see it in the show notes. Sorry, I'm stalling a bit because I'm waiting for the sun to come out. Go, go, go. Here we go. Isn't it wonderful when you can see it all moving in front of your eyes? There we go, got it. Marvellous. I'm just going to keep shooting. Keep going, Neil, keep going. I am. There you go. What was I on? F11, 250th, ISO 200. Got it. Take you out of my pocket. I do have this habit of getting lost where I was in my conversation with you. Where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about the Garibaldi. So yes, there's a pub, and Anna McCarthy was driving along, and she saw the pub, literally stopped on the spot apparently, in a place called Bourne End, which is a very posh part of the south of England. And yes, it's she got 3 pictures of it, and I'll share those on the show page today so you can see the Garibaldi pub. It actually exists. My favourite biscuit pub exists. But of course, Garibaldis aren't really about biscuits. Well, they are. I mean, Garibaldi biscuits. But I did need to find out why this pub was called Garibaldi. And there's a few Garibaldi pubs. I would imagine they're all named after this character, Giuseppe Garibaldi, who joined he lived 1807 to 1882. He joined the Sardinian Navy, and later his political beliefs in a republic led to his involvement in an unsuccessful anti-monarchist plot. So he fled to South America, as you do, in the days way before travel would have got you there in about 12 to 14 hours. He goes to Brazil, he fights a rebellion, and he ends up in a civil war in Uruguay, where he earns a certain amount of fame for his heroism. But he does seem to follow the trouble, doesn't he? And then so he returns to Europe and he fights for Sardinia against Austria. And then after Sardinia's defeat, he fights for a little while for the Roman Republic, which was squashed by the French intervention on behalf of the Pope. By then he's probably thinking, what am I doing? All for the quiet life. I tell you what I'll do, I'll set up a biscuit empire and make squash fly biscuits. So that is Giuseppe Garibaldi. That's the history of him, and that's why we have pubs named after him. But I had no idea. Prior to Anna making those pictures, and thank you, Anna, for being so eagle-eyed. I had no idea that there was a pub with his name. So now I think there's 4. We've decided we're going to do a bit of a meet-up. So I'm waiting till July because we still have until the 21st of June. Oh, it's difficult to keep up with all the laws and the regulations, and God knows what will happen in the next couple of weeks alone. But come the end of June, as we head into July, then we're allowed to meet with more people. And so I thought that might be the time to have a bit of a get-together. Now, I appreciate that there's a lot of, over half the listeners to this show are in America, so I'm sorry. But if I can find myself a Learjet, I'll be over to you guys quick sharp. If, of course, you'll let us in. I'm not quite sure what your rules are. But in the meantime, the Garibaldi pub at Bourne End, I think, is going to be our first meet-up. It seems like a good place to have a meet-up, don't you think? So So keep July free. What, the whole July, Neil? Yeah, the whole July. We waited long enough. It's the Friday photo walk. You and I with our cameras, just making some pictures of our somethings and nothings. Most of us in the countryside, obviously not all of us, some of us clearly by the first thing that you see feature, behind our desks, which is okay. You can listen to the Friday photo walk there, as long as you're making a photo walk over the weekend perhaps. Make some pictures there. If you'd like to send your pictures in, then it's always great to receive them. 2,000 pixels wide on the wide side, please, and send them to the email address, which is studio@photographydaily.show. I'm a bit out of breath. I just climbed quite a large hill. Well, a large hill when you're wearing a North Face jacket on a sunny day. But you just don't know what weather you're going to get at the moment in the UK. We went to a theme park on Monday. Yeah, I'm not your classic thrill rides merchant, but my oldest son, who's missed 2 birthdays, really. He missed his 12th and he missed his 13th, because both birthdays happened to be sat right in the middle of lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, or was that 3? And so he had what we call in the UK an inset day, which means that the teachers all go down to the pub and the kids get a day off. I can hear teachers now, if we have any that are photographers in their part-time, shouting at me, "It's not a pub day, Neil." Let's be honest, yes it is. And you deserve it. So we went to a theme park, and we went to one called Paulton's Park, which is, well, of all the sort of thrill ride places you can go to, perhaps it's not renowned as being as thrill-ish as some of the other parks that have these huge roller coasters that sort of claim to have 10 upside down moments. But this is a bit more gentle on you. Although there were I'm not very good when I'm being spun around and thrown forward. I can take the throw forward bit, but the spinning round bit, no. But as we were on these rides, the heavens opened. And have you ever ridden a motorcycle or something into the rain or into hail? That's what it felt like. And of course, you couldn't just pull over. I just want to stop for a second. Hold on. No, because you're firing forward at 50, 60 miles an hour, whatever you're doing, and you can't really stop. You just take the hail in the face. But it was good fun. Nice to be sort of, well, not completely back to normal, but reasonably back to normal. Let's go for some first-time writers. Galang Dorkman. Hello, Neil. First-time writer here. Really love the podcast. And your other one with Kev. Yeah, my old reprobate buddy Kev. And I have to say, you were a brilliant interviewer. Do you mean me or Kev? Well, it's very kind of you, whoever you mean. I'm not a photographer, says Galang. I'm a hobbyist at most. Oh, you're never just a hobbyist at most. You are a photographer. I'm very, very... That's something I'm very sharp to pull people up on, aren't I? No, you're not just a photographer. You're a photographer. You're not just a hobbyist. You are a photographer. Anyway, I'm studying at a hospital as a psychiatry resident. I used to take my camera around everywhere until the pandemic happened. I didn't want to bring the camera that I also used to document the growth of my daughter to the hospital, or outside really, because in case you don't know, Indonesia, which is where Galang lives, is one of the worst countries in handling the infection. And I live in what they call the red zone city. Then I stopped taking my camera outside. Consequently, the picture making also dropped in numbers. Your podcasts are the ones that have kept my photography passion flickering. Ah, yes, of course, during that period, you're probably talking about that early period, aren't you? Where with the Fujicast, we went daily, Monday through Sunday, didn't we? About half an hour a day. Yeah, that was a lot of fun doing that. From listening to your interviews and photo walks, I was fascinated by the idea of journaling using photographs. Taking your camera everywhere to photograph the everyday, the mundane, the between something and nothing. See, you're using my language. These are the things that we probably wouldn't know the importance of until later, much later. especially in these trying times. And I think that the power of photography is immense. I printed the pictures of my baby daughter that I gathered from my camera and my wife's phone into an album, sent it to my parents because we couldn't see each other. And they were absolutely overjoyed. Oh, what a lovely gift. Well, I can't imagine a nicer gift, really, at that moment, can you? Much better, he says, than sending pictures over on WhatsApp. I absolutely agree with you. Recently, I bought a nice little camera, Fuji XF10. It's perfect. Pocketable, cheapish, and miles better than my phone. I use it as my outside camera. I can take the SD card and battery out, bring them inside, leave the camera body in the bag, and I don't have to worry about disinfecting. Works incredibly well for me. And now I'm ready for my own photo walks while listening to yours, of course. Thank you, Neil. You and your guests are an inspiration. Well, that's very kind and flattering of you to say so. On the having to disinfect everything. Now, look, I'm not in Indonesia. And, of course, I'm equally not a scientist. But I read a lot and I watch a lot and I sort of gather my thoughts and I try and balance them. And then every so often I get a bit off-balanced with Google is thrown at me by websites or even friends, actually, that sort of, they pass me the news and then they pass me the piece of news that was 2 days prior to the latest update. I mean, they can't help it. It's just, that's how quickly news moves at the moment. But with my ear to the ground, and I'm reading and listening and watching, there is this thought that obviously COVID-19, we should be very concerned about the airborne factor of this virus and this disease. But I don't think there's a lot of recorded cases, are there, of people catching COVID from the post or packages that come through from whoever, or your groceries or cameras. I don't know. I mean, there we are. That said it, Neil. You don't know. No, I don't. But on the whole, this maybe it's wishful thinking. I just can't wait to get back to a day where we don't look at stuff and think, should I spray that within an inch of its life with some disinfectant? Here's one. Thank you very much for your email, Gilang. It was lovely to hear from you. And don't make that your first and only time, though, will you? Make sure you write again. And let us know how it's going in Indonesia. Here's one from Jeremy Tidams. You asked for some first-time writers. So just to prove we're out there, really enjoyed the interview with Rick Findler. As a former now retired journalist working back in the family business in the travel industry, I'm finding myself, as you might imagine, a little bit more time on my hands at the moment. But I thought you might like to know that as a travel consultant for corporates, we've arranged a handful of trips for journalists and photographers travelling to what I suppose you might call areas of interest these days. And I have to say they're a breed apart. I spent my whole career in the UK with just a few exceptions, but nothing as challenging as many of the places Rick travels to routinely. But there was a human element to your story that I loved, the fact that every single day when he's on these jobs, he writes to his mother. Yes, he does. And, when you're interviewing people, sometimes these glorious little gems come out and you think, they just stop you in your tracks. And you think, do you know what? That's it. I feel the interview's done. We only needed that question. And it was lovely, wasn't it? The Rick, because he works in these, pretty tricky places, he always sends a message to his mum. As much to say, look, I'm okay, here I am doing my job. And he thinks it's better that they hear really what he's doing rather than they sit there thousands of miles away wondering what on earth is going on across the world. He feels that by giving them this information that it probably helps everybody. I tend to agree. I think it does. There's a lovely path down here. Taking a right turn at the traffic lights. Well, there's no traffic lights, not in the countryside. Oh, look at this. That's marvellous. Wow. Countryside for miles and miles and miles around. Not a house. Well, there's a house there. That's a very posh house there. It's nice. But yes, so that letter to his mum I thought was wonderful. And I found one on the site. It was from when he was working at Bujumbura, Burundi in 2016. These were the words that he wrote. The protesters increased in numbers whilst also increasing in anger. You could feel the air become heavy. heavy with anticipation of the police arriving, as well as the realization that things were going to get very dangerous. In fact, he says very, very dangerous. The president was trying for a controversial third term, but the people of Burundi had had enough. Email to Mum on the 3rd of June 2015. Yes, it's peppered through his site. And I did ask, I said to him at the end, I think I left it in. Yes, I did. Rick, can you add me to your mailing list? And he said he would. I hope he remembers. Let's play you some words from Rick Findler, shall we? Episode 230, Witnessing History with Your Pictures.
I mean, Georgie, my wife, she's a photographer as well.
Right.
So she knows, and she's done work in Calais and gets sent to certain places in Africa and things. And she gets it. She understands it. Although she doesn't do frontline conflict or anything. But so Georgie is, she's very understanding. Mum, Dad, and my sister, I think that they're very good at keeping their thoughts to themselves, because they'll never say don't go, because that doesn't do good for anyone. That won't help anyone, because I'll still go, and all that will do is just sort of put this sort of negative thought in the back of my mind. So I think they kind of, they're very supportive, and they let me get on with the features that I want to do, and they just sort of say, okay, well, take care. And in actual fact, I mean, the very, very first time I went abroad was to Greece in 2009 for the Greek riots, after a 15-year-old kid got shot by the police, sparking the worst riots the country had seen in 45 years. And I went out there, and the first night I was there, I sent Mum an email saying, I'm here, and this is what the situation is, and this happened. I met this person, and she was cool, and this guy was cool. He helped me out, and I'm staying here, and here's a couple of pictures from today. And then the next night, after being at the riots, I sent another email to Mum saying, oh, wow, today was interesting, all this, and stun grenades, and here are pictures, and this and that. And from then, at the end of every day I've ever been anywhere interesting, I've sent Mum an email. And even in Syria, if there's been no reception, I'll still write the email. And when I'm back in Turkey, I'll then drip feed these emails every day with these pictures. And so Mum has printed out all these emails and has a collection of these emails, and a number of people have asked to be CC'd onto the email. So I've got like 200 people on this email list now that receives these daily updates if I ever go anywhere. So they're very aware of, my family are very aware of the tricky and sticky situations I get into, because these emails are very honest, and they're very graphic and very funny and very, very detailed and things. So they're certainly not sheltered in sort of what I do get up to and things. And I think that also helps, although it probably makes them worried, but at least they know what I'm up to, rather than catastrophizing things in their head.
There we go, Rick Findler from episode 230. The only thing that ruins the countryside, well, there's a few things, but the thing that I mostly dislike are electricity wires and pylons. And I'm not sure you can even put them under the ground, can you? Because, well, for a start, I suppose across a field they might get ploughed, but equally they get hot, don't they? That's the problem. They overheat. You can't have them underground. It would cost a fortune, because you have to somehow cool them down. There's a world problem to solve for landscape photographers. They'd be the first when they're queuing up to try and solve this one. They'd love it, wouldn't they? No electricity pylons going across the countryside. Fantastic. Although this is quite interesting. I'm directly underneath and sort of following the line of them. I might put you in my pocket and get a picture of it. Neil, one moment you're moaning about them, the next you're making a feature of them. Well, might as well. Hold on. It's going to be a portrait-orientated photograph, because I'm sort of following the line of them. I'm not quite sure, because it's gone a bit overcast. I kind of need a pool of light to sort of pick them out. Well, not so much a pool, but some sort of light, some sort of contrast to pick them out against the green countryside. I don't know, that might make it to the show page today. Or not quite sure. Rescue you from the pocket. Oh, and then I turn around and find now it looks like it's sort of been swallowed, enveloped by the trees. Pocket time again, sorry. Hold on, we'll get to an email in a moment. Now this one, I can see It's against the white cloud. A little bit of puffiness about the clouds, and there you go. I'm going to put it right in the middle. If there was a middle third that I'm imagining, it sat right in the middle of it. There we go. So, oh yes, I wanted to ask you about sharing with your communities. I thought this was, thought about this a little the other day, and it occurred to me with some of the mails that we get that we've created in some respects. And as you know, I'm not a landscape photographer. We know, Neil, we've seen the photographs that you make and put on the show page. Don't be rude. I'm doing my best. But we have created this kind of sort of landscape show. Into the fact that we're out walking usually in nature, aren't we? But it's equally a landscape show where we get to talk about all kinds of photography. So if you can share, if you're into your landscapes and you belong to I don't know, a Facebook group or any sort of social media group or a club, I don't know. Share, if you can share the show, share the Friday Photo Walk, because it is very, very different to most other, well, to every other photography podcast, I think. And I know I say this with abandon, obviously. Usually at the start of the show, it's the only one of its kind. I don't actually know that, but I have searched around and haven't really found anything like it. So I'm just thinking it could be a nice thing to share in those sort of communities. And you make a huge difference to spreading the word and bringing together like-minded photographers, because that's what this is all about, community. Next week, the Photo Walk becomes the new hour-long edition. Oh yes, or at least the hour is what I'm aiming at. So I'll need your help, of course, because it can only be an hour if I get your help. And I'll definitely need your pictures. So I've said it, I know, just a short while ago, but I'll say it again. If you'd like to send your pictures in to be used in the Friday Photo Walk, and don't worry if you think, I'm a bit new, or I see so much other great stuff. I'm not sure that mine will somehow float his boat or the audience's boat. They will. This thing that we do, this photography that we do, it's not about being perfect. We're not. This is not Instagram here. I'm not picking on Instagram, but you know what I mean. When some people will only show the very finest. They're a bit afraid to show the stuff that they're not so proud of. No, show everything. This is about sharing. It's about community. So send them in to studio@photographydaily.show. studio@photographydaily.show. Let's do some quick fires here. Peter Upton. Hi, Neil. Newish listener to the show. Loving it. It's really helping me cope with a difficult time. I wanted to share with you some pictures from my photo walk. I didn't take you with me on this one, but you keep me company in the car most days with the show. I went to a part of my hometown of Scarborough that I haven't visited for at least a decade. Got some nice shots with a simple kit of my D300S and the Nikon 50mm 1.4. All the best, Peter. I've featured some of Peter's shots on the show page today. And here's one from Andy Hinson. Hello, Neil. Just sending over a few snaps. Snaps? Andy, they're not snaps, they're photographs. I suppose you can have snaps though, can't you? Yes. Let's not be too squeamish about the word. From my photo walk with my dog last night, classic spring weather of sunshine, gale force winds and hail, all within a time frame of about 20 minutes. Or you make it sound like our trip to the theme park now. Resulted in some lovely skies with bolts of sunlight shining through. Was able to take my time this week as it was just me and the dog. My wife gets the hump if I take too long composing a shot. She's away in Dublin looking after her elderly mum at the moment. Every cloud has a silver lining. Andy! Twice I'm going to have to tell you off. Will your wife be listening? Oh, she knows what I'm like, Neil, does she? Oh, okay then. All shot on a Lumix GX80, bought from, you guessed it, MPB. When they're this good, why buy new? Best wishes, Andy. Andy, you could have written the script. There we go. Andy's writing the ad scripts for the show now. Nicola Alton. Ah, Nicola, so good to hear from you. Now, Nicola is a fellow vaccinator. We've done this. Well, we weren't at the same course, were we? You're a bit further north in the country, and I did my training in Oxford, in the shadow actually of of where the vaccine, well, this vaccine, AstraZeneca, was created. I did. We've sort of been keeping tabs on each other, myself and Nicola, saying, "Have you had your chance yet? Have you done your first shift?" I got a chance to do my first shift the other day, and I'm really not sure I should probably talk too much about it. Although, having said that, one of the families was using it as a publicity shot for their public profile. Hi Neil, instead of talk of vaccinations, here's a black and white image from last week's photo dog walk at my favourite canal spot just before the hail started. X100V with Kev's Padilla preset. Take care from Nicola. See, we all had hail, didn't we? What's going on? What is it about the weather? Where's all this hail come from in the midst or ends now, really, of May? Isn't that how War of the World started? The new one, or the latest one? I think it was, wasn't it? All these sort of bolts of lightning and hail and sort of weird weather. Next thing you know, you've got aliens in your back garden. In which case, I think they were invading. We killed them off with the common cold virus or something, didn't we? They want to be staying away right now, that's for sure. Keep your photos coming in. It's always great to receive them. Right, should we play some inspiration? Now, Albert Watson is returning very soon. Of course, world-famous Albert Watson, renowned for his portraits, his fashion work, and he's been in, absolute photographic god, which he is. He's been in Italy, actually, doing something out there. I don't know, I'll have to ask him when we speak to him. I hope he's been keeping safe, obviously, I'm sure he has. But he's coming back and we're going to do a special Ask Albert episode. So you'll find in the Facebook group there is a way to leave Albert a question. I probably won't be able to put them all to him. So I shall take a selection of them, but it's worth leaving them there because he's the sort of chap that would probably say, "Oh, just keep asking," in his wonderfully Scottish stroke American accent that he has. So go to the Facebook group, the private Facebook group. If you're not a member yet, you can easily join. Look us up. Ask to join, we'll let you in as long as you're not wearing trainers, and then you can ask your question to Albert as well. But let's hear something from the great man, Albert Watson.
So anyway, he took a long time looking at the pictures, and I was just standing. He didn't say much, and he grabbed like 4 or 5 rolls of film, different shots, and he said, "I'll be right back." Well, he was away for quite a long time. It must have been about 20, 25 minutes. I was just sitting there waiting. And he came back and he said, "I have some good news for you." He said, "We're going to buy 5 of these shots." And I thought, wow, that's great. And he said, "I've got a couple of shootings coming up that I think we can, basically do business with you, sort of thing. And he said, "Let me give you a PO." And of course, at that time, I had no idea what a PO was, a purchase order. So he put it in an envelope, and I went and he said, "But we can do a meeting next week." And he said, "I'll let you know about other stuff going on." So of course I was very happy, very ecstatic. And I got into the elevator and kind of ripped open the envelope. I looked at it quickly and it looked to me like it was $150 for 5 shots. You have to remember, this is 1971. Yeah. That was a good chunk of money for a day, $750. I mean, the photographers today working for $750, they'll be happy to get $750. So anyway, I got home and I told Liz, my wife, it's very exciting. And they said, "It's great." And I said, "We're going to do a bill." So she borrowed a typewriter from the school she was at. And she was typing it out and she said, "Well, it looks like it's not $150, but it looks like it's $1,500. And I was like, "No, it can't be $1,500 because now that's $7,500. And I thought, that's impossible. So then, of course, the big discussion was all that weekend was whether or not we should try our luck and bill for $7,500, and then we thought it could be some form of embezzlement or against the law or something, or they might deport us or some scandal or something.
Yeah, there we go, Albert Watson, and he'll be returning very soon. So if you've got some questions, pop them in the Facebook group, and I may well be asking Albert on your behalf the question that you left. It's time for Last Mail of the Week time. Yes. Well, before I do that, some trees or something that's fallen down here. Is this going to make I just like the sort of massive interwoven branches here that could make a photograph. I don't know. No, I'm changing my mind. All right, let's go straight into the mail. This one's, well, I've been saving this one actually from Eric Joseph for a few weeks. The reason will become obvious. Hello, Neil. I'll admit I'm a bit behind with the episodes of late, but a little rumination on some topics had me thinking about a sense of agency or ownership of what we photograph. I know you've talked about legacy previously over several episodes, I believe, and that got me thinking about if it's important to have a sense of ownership about our photographs or generally our body of work. Perhaps it's tied to legacy in some way. I can see ego being involved in owning photos, but it doesn't have to be an ego trip, more so about our photos being our contribution to the conversation us photographers have with each other and world. Certainly there's copyright, but I'm being far more existential about the concept of ownership. Perhaps I should check out Sean Tucker's library of YouTube content. I have a feeling he and I could talk for hours on this topic. You probably could. By the way, I wanted to suggest a wildlife photographer who's done something interesting. She's adopted a family of baby squirrels and records their sounds as well as the photos. Her Twitter bio and links to her stories are, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got the link there. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes because you have to hear. Well, I'm going to play this to you. On her Twitter profile, she's got the sounds of a 7-week-old squirrel feeding, recorded through the kind of microphone any of us could have. It's not recorded through a special high fandango thousands of dollars or pounds or euros microphone made for recording squirrels in the wild. This is just one of your standard Rode video microphones that's just been placed close to this 7-week-old squirrel. Oh, have a listen. Come on, your heart has just melted. Tell me. That's beautiful, isn't it? Yes. See, Eric Joseph, this is from. So thank you, Eric. See, I think you're destined for the deep thinking with Sean on this one, Eric, on ownership. And you threw in a few squirrels there for me, didn't you? You thought, I know, I'll talk about the serious stuff with Sean, and I'll pop in a squirrel thing for Neil just to keep him entertained. As far as ownership of pictures go, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. Whether we should be a little bit squeamish about people stealing our work? Well, maybe we should if we're selling it, yes, or if it's intensely private to us, in which case we should be very careful where we share it in the first place. But we're in this world now where Instagram, Facebook, and various other social platforms have meant that, and then I suppose you also look at sites like Unsplash, which provide people with an opportunity to show their work, but they have to share it for free. They can't charge for it. Mind you, have they just been bought by Getty? Is it Getty that bought them? In which case, I don't know whether Unsplash will change at all, and they'll have some kind of fee structure attached to it. It's always been designed not to be so. But yeah, so I don't know, Eric. I had some software. I was introduced to it by Kev, actually. Mullins, my reprobate friend on the FujiCast, and it goes off and searches for pictures that you've made. It's a very clever piece of software. That it's not clever, Neil. It's pretty basic. Oh, okay then. That goes to search for images that obviously have the same pattern as the ones that you've got and that you've shown, and then it sort of pops them all up on screen. And if you believe somebody's using your images when they shouldn't be, then you can drop them a sharp email, and they'll drop you one back that says, "Thanks very much, not interested." Because that's been my experience of it. Do I chase it? I mean, there are exceptionally litigious photographers in some parts of the world that will just go after it, but I tend to agree with a photographer I talked to, very, very seasoned, exceptionally good photojournalist, that said, you know what, I don't want to spend my life fighting. I really don't. It's short enough as it is. So I guess protect very heartily the stuff that you're fearful might be shared, I suppose, illegally or captured, taken, stolen, used, whatever you want to attach to it. Yeah, is that what you're asking, Eric? Hang on a minute, let me just get back on the track. There we go. I think that's what you were asking. Otherwise, see Sean. He'll have an answer for you. He's good like that.
And it's probably an opportune moment for me as studio self to say Sean is here next week on Wednesday, returning, but this time to talk about his book, The Meaning in the Making. Now, if you've followed Sean Tucker as a YouTuber, you'll know that his channel isn't about lens reviews or what cameras you should be switching to, and though he does do tutorials, they're really to help you improve, not purchase from a drop-down of affiliate links. His films are about the why, and of course, being a show here that embraces the why, it's right up our viewing avenue. And though Sean has released a series of photographic picture books, this is a book that discovers why we love making stuff. And in our case, of course, that's photos. It's very much a touchy-feely episode on Wednesday.
I've got a chapter just called Feel, which talks about sort of the emotional side of how we make. And I'm a more rational-brained human being, admittedly, but I know it has to be the balance between our rational mind and our emotional state that we make from if we want to make good things. And if we're weak on one side, we need to work on the other.
One of my favourite books that I'm revisiting is David Hearn and Bill Jay's discussion book on being a photographer. And though that is, as described on the cover, actually a practical book, I think Sean's book is going to be an important read for anyone who can sport the title Creative. Wednesday, The Meaning in the Making. And that's it for today. Keep sending your questions and feedback to studio@photographydaily.show so that I can feature you in the mailbag edition, which is this Friday photo walk. Tell me about what you're doing, the projects you're working on, how you're feeling, because that's important to this show too. And send me the pictures from your own walks. Plus, of course, those first thing you see pictures. Don't forget those. Be sure to visit today's website show page for links to guests and things discussed. And you'll find a link on the description in your podcast player app. Thanks to mpb.com, the number one team when it comes to buying used and selling used or trading in Europe, the UK and States. Thank you to our patrons. Music in the show was from artlist.io, and I look forward to photographing with you, hearing from you and talking with you next time.
Can you hear that car? What? Helicopter. Oh yeah, it's been circling. It's looking for you. Wow. I've been trying to find my way back to you. I kind of kept turning left and right, not really noticing where I was. It's probably looking for me, car, isn't it? Wouldn't have thought so. Oh, charming. I'm on my way back anyway. Well, don't be long. Why's that? You've only got about half an hour on your ticket left. Oh.
Photography Daily is a Loading Zone production.